wait a damn minute. And the photo on the left, you can see him reading the headline about coronavirus. On the right there, you've got a couple of Chinese guys sneezing into a box, the coronavirus. And then down there, you've got a helicopter crash with a basketball player. All them things have happened recently. But it's just a coincidence, isn't it? There are no coincidences. Unprecedented sea level rise in Sydney Harbour over the last 140 years due to massive climate change. Yeah, that's a lie as well, isn't it? Now this document, links are in description for it. This is the apostolic letter issued motu proprio of the Supreme Pontiff Francis on the jurisdiction of judicial authorities of Vatican City State in criminal matters. I'm not going to read it all because it's a long document, but you need to read that. It basically removes all insurance or cover from the criminal judges and magistrates. This is something you should be using if you ever end up in court. Special report. Trump lifts 70-year ban on natural pain breakthrough. Greedy drug companies outraged that seniors now have a safe, non-prescription pain remedy to treat arthritis, chronic pain, joint aches and inflammation. For details, keep reading. Washington, D.C. For the past 70 years, this safe and natural pain breakthrough has been outlawed. Greedy drug companies lobbied against it. Politicians in the pockets of Big Pharma supported measures to keep it out of the public hands. Now it's finally available to everyone for the first time without a prescription. Here's what you need to know. This proven pain relief miracle is drug-free. Scientific studies from around the world have shown it treats arthritis, chronic pain, joint aches, inflammation, anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD, insomnia, and a slew of other common ailments. The amazing thing is it does all of this naturally. That means no more prescriptions, no more doctors, and no more addictive and deadly opioids. The miracle pain relief formula will take a big chunk out of the pharmaceutical industry's $446 billion profits. Profits they make at the expense, which is why Big Pharma is fighting to ban it again. However, a small natural health company out of Denver, Colorado is fighting back. The company just released their super concentrated Cali Naturals CBD formula after President Trump made CBD legal again in all 50 states. They hope the public can get their hands on it before it's too late. Children's home staff wrapped boy in cling film and taped his mouth, hearing told. Richard Burnell and Kyle Johnson allegedly bound the teenager's legs and arms and put tape across his face, covering his mouth while the youngster was on emergency placement. 2 children's home staff wrapped a schoolboy in cling film and gagged his mouth with tape, a professional hearing was told. Richard Burnell and Kyle Johnson allegedly bound the teenager's legs and arms in the kitchen with cling film, with the packaging tape over his mouth. The boy's mother later found photos and videos of the cling film incident on his social media account and alerted the authorities. A Social Care Wales Fitness to Practice hearing was told the pair were also caught on video telling the teenager to F off and to wank yourself, stupid. Presenting officer Delm Griffiths said the 2 project workers were working at Orthog Children's Home in Gwynedd when the boy was put in for an emergency placement. Mr. Griffiths said the video showed the teenagers sitting on a sofa with cling film around his arm and legs. He said his hands and feet are tied together and there is tape across his face covering his mouth. Mr. Griffiths added, "We say the video and the comments made speak for themselves. It would always be inappropriate to tie and bound a young person in this manner." Boris Johnson makes wildly false claim that rough sleeping is at an 8-year low. The Prime Minister said rough sleeping is lower than any time in the last 8 years. In reality, it's more than doubled since 2010 and just fell a tiny bit last year. That's all. Boris Johnson has made a factually inaccurate claim that rough sleeping is at an 8-year low. The Prime Minister said the scourge of street sleeping was lower than any time in the last 8 years. But his comment during a self-promoted People's PMQs from Downing Street is not correct. Rough sleeping in England has risen by 165% since the Tories came to power, from 1,768 in 2010 to 4,677 in 2018. The Prime Minister said there is one good bit of news, one floating glimmer of good news, which is the number of rough sleepers has come down a bit over on the figures of the last 8 years. It's lower than any time in the last 8 years, the lying bastard said. Many people choose to be on the streets, Tory MP says in homelessness debate. When you give cash to a beggar, not in every case, but in the vast majority of cases, you are buying heroin or you are buying alcohol or you're buying zombie spice, said Tory MP Adam Holloway. Many rough sleepers choose to be on the streets to fund drug and alcohol addiction, a Tory MP has said. During a Commons debate on the issue, Tory backbencher Adam Holloway said treating homelessness as a health issue, allowing drug and alcohol to be used in shelters and improving mental health care would be some way to tackling the problem. The Gravesham MP spent time on the streets in 91 and again in 2018 to learn more about the problems faced by those sleeping rough. He told MPs about meetings in alcoholic on the streets in London called Andy, who claimed he had a flat to go home to if he wanted to. Mr. Holloway said Andy was drinking, I don't know, probably 30 cans of beer a day. So he doesn't know, he's just guessing at 30 cans of beer a day. I doubt he could drink 30 cans of beer a day. But Andy wasn't actually homeless and had a flat. He, in fact, showed me the keys to his flat, but Andy was living at Westminster for 2 reasons. He was lonely in his flat in North London, and how on earth is an alcoholic going to generate enough money to buy beer if he's not begging on the streets? I didn't meet him, but a friend of mine reported that a guy who had been a heroin addict in Covent Garden for many years, who had his leg cut off eventually. And this guy absolutely maintains, and this is my experience too, that if the public were not so generous and didn't enable people to buy the heroin and buy the alcohol, then he would have got off of the streets an awful lot earlier. The reality is that many people choose to be on the streets. Tory MP Adam Holloway claims rough sleepers choose to be on the streets. He says many people would rather be on the streets than in a shelter because it allows them to fund drug and alcohol addiction. Unlike these MPs who have all the food and alcohol they want at our expense. Tories humiliated after court finds they did discriminate against thousands with disabilities. Not only has the Tories' universal credit policy been found to discriminate against disabled people moving from one local authority area to another, cutting their income, but they were then found to have tried to discriminate against them with the repayments. How twisted. It means thousands of people with disabilities who have been moved off disability benefit and onto universal credit may be due large refunds to be paid at the same rate as the money was taken away. I would like to see them all demanding their cash back now. The ruling upholds two successful High Court challenges brought by two men, known as TP and AR, which found that people who were previously on disability benefits should be protected against a drop in their income when they move into the controversial universal credit system. Under universal credit, they lost out on their disability benefits, leaving them suddenly around £180 a month worse off. The judge found that this was unlawful because those that had moved to a different local authority area were being treated differently to those who moved within the local authority area. The government attempted to rectify the situation with regulations which stopped other severely disabled people from moving over to universal credit and provided those who had already moved over with back payments. But in another government failing, the disabled men were only paid back at a rate of £80 a month rather than the £180 that they had lost. Tory government. Well, any government. They're only in it for themselves and they don't give a shit about anyone else. Smart motorways put on hold amid safety concerns. Critics argue that the lay-bys should be much closer together and that radar systems should be in place to ensure that broken down cars, trucks and vans are spotted automatically. The rollout of smart motorways has been suspended pending the outcome of a safety review, the Transport Secretary has said. Stretches that were under construction would not be opening until new safety measures had been introduced. Grant Shapps said yesterday. He hinted that the entire programme could be scrapped unless the government was satisfied that the roads in which the hard shoulder is removed to create an extra lane were as safe, if not safer, than conventional motorways. 4 schemes covering more than 40 miles are nearing completion and were due to open by March or April. They include a 13.6 mile stretch of the M6 in the West Midlands, 11 miles of the M23 near Gatwick Airport and 10 miles of the M62. Doesn't matter which political party's in, none of them could organise a piss up in a brewery, so letting them decide what happens is disastrous. Here are patents that you can find. The AIDS patent. There it is, H1N1 patent, the Ebola patent, swine flu, BSE, Zika virus, SARS, coronavirus. And I did a bit of digging, I checked these out. And, well, not all of them, I checked the first one and the last one. And this was the first one, which is quite surprising when you read the title. Method of curing AIDS with tetrasilver tetoxide molecular crystal devices. Links in you can just search it yourself. Just put that patent in, US 5676977A, and that comes up and it tells you about a cure for AIDS. Allegedly, according to governments, there are no cures for AIDS. But let's not forget, the Bob Beck device, which was created in the late 80s, early 90s, was created to cure AIDS, which it does, but it also cures cancer. Well, there we go. And this is when I put that corona patent in. As you can see, US patent for coronavirus patent. There you go. And crisis coronavirus patent number. United States issues patent number. If they've issued a patent, it's been man-made so that they can then make money with a vaccine. They think we are absolute idiots. Mother had to fundraise to get palliative care for her dying 6-year-old daughter. Mother of child who needs 24-hour care says she feels let down by the system. Lynn MacDonald, the mother of a 6-year-old girl who is approaching the end of her life, had to set up a GoFundMe page to fund her daughter's 24-hour palliative care needs. Why are we letting these governments do this? This is government. Anything like this is government. And it needs to stop. The mother of a 6-year-old girl who is approaching the end of her life had to set up a GoFundMe page to fund her daughter's 24-hour palliative care needs. While the MPs, they all have Bupa and as much as they want, and can we see the injustice? Daisy McDonald has Rett syndrome, which is a genetic neurological condition. She was discharged from hospital 13 days ago with an expected 24 hours to live and transported to her home in Templeogue, Dublin, from Talgate Hospital via a Garda escort ambulance. Her mother, Lynn MacDonald, was distressed to discover the HSE did not provide the care she believed would be in place. Unfortunately, I discovered hospice care in the home is not something provided to children in this county, said Miss MacDonald. The HSE response to my request for 24-hour support for my child was, if she's that sick, she should be in hospital. The hospital has already stated there is no more intervention for Daisy. The level of care Daisy receives at the moment is similar to ICU, intensive care unit. Because there's no more intervention, everything is just management now. It's trying to manage her seizures, trying to keep her temperature down, and the biggest part is Daisy's chest at the moment. She needs constant suctioning around the clock. Daisy, who had been cared for at home, was taken into hospital for 5 days. She has been 72 hours in a coma when she was discharged. Seriously ill man, weighs 7 stone, refused free social care and dies very next day. Barry Balderston, 75, suffered from advanced Parkinson's disease, and he and his wife were forced to spend thousands of their hard-earned savings to foot the bill of his care. This heartbreaking picture shows a seriously ill man who was deemed not ill enough to qualify for free full-time social care. Barry Balderston, 75, suffered from a range of medical conditions including ulcerative colitis, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, double incontinence and chronic kidney disease. The image shows him on the day that he was refused full funding which would have paid for all of his care needs, reports Cheshire Live. The day after the decision was made, upheld at appeal following 2 applications, the 75-year-old died. He weighed just 7 stone, 45 kilograms. The tragic case has prompted his heartbroken widow to ask, how ill do you have to be to qualify? Tree felling suspended in Doncaster after barrister claims council may have committed a criminal offence. Well, all councils are criminals anyway. Doncaster Council has suspended an operation felling dozens of healthy street trees after a top barrister said they may have committed a criminal offence. Of course, they won't go to jail for it because they're crooks. And who's going to jail them? The courts? Yeah. Paul Powsland of Ely Chambers in London, who successfully represented tree campaigners in Sheffield, has provided pro bono advice to residents in Bescar after the council cut down a number of trees on the Midfield Road. A council spokesman said they had received the documents from Mr. Powsland and it turned would suspend felling while taking legal advice. DMBC workers began cutting down the trees apparently to enact highway repairs, claiming tree roots were responsible. Utter bullshit. Mayor of London doubles council tax rise for police funding. And look at the bitch behind him over his shoulder there, laughing because she knows she's getting more money even though they're not fit for purpose. London's mayor has nearly doubled a planned rise in council tax he says will raise 16 million more to fight crime. No, it won't, because you are the criminals. A London household in Bandee will pay £332 to City Hall next year, a 3.6 increase from £320.51 last year. In December, Sadiq Khan proposed to increase council tax by 2%. The fund will pay to fast-track an extra 600 police officers next year. The Conservatives said a £104 million violent crime fund could be paid for by cutting unnecessary spending from the budget. Greater London Authority Conservatives leader Susan Hall said Mr Khan has the money available to put an additional 1,568 police officers on our streets. He is just complacently choosing not to. Sadiq Khan is fond of blaming the government for London's sky-high crime rates, but our plans show that this is nothing more than a shameless buck passing. Telegraph. This is not an end, but a beginning. You lying bastard, we are not leaving because we're still tied to the military, they still write our laws, and we're still paying VAT, which is a solely European tax. It's like the American federal tax. It's a European tax that goes direct to the European Parliament. 20% of everything you buy that's got VAT on it goes directly to the European scummy Parliament. The Guardian. Small island. After 47 years, Britain leaves the EU at 11 p.m. tonight. The biggest gamble in a generation. No, the biggest gamble we ever took was allowing you crooks to take us into it in the first place. Daily Fail. At 11 p.m, our proud nation finally leaves the EU. Still a friend of Europe, but free and independent once more after 47 years. Now, of this momentous day, we salute a new dawn for Britain. Absolute bullshit. Don't believe a word of it. The scum. And now for more utter crap. Tonight at 11 p.m, after 30 years of resistance to the creeping danger of a European superstate, the great people of the United Kingdom have at last finally got Brexit done. Our time has come. 100 souvenir, 50p coins to be won. Utter bullshit. We have not left. I told you, I've been saying this for the past 3 or 4 years. You might get a piece of paper that says, we've now left, but we haven't. We're still tied into military. They're still taking the VAT. And of course, our puppet Prime Minister is a puppet for them. This is just bullshit. Express, 11p. Yeah, we did it. No, we didn't, you lying bastards. Tom Hanks, my recipe for a kinder world. Madonna's brilliant return. Well, let's not forget, Tom Hanks is a paedophile. He rapes children. And so, can't believe anything he said. Oh, he's also a Freemason as well. UK's leap into the unknown. No, it's not. We know exactly what it's like. It's like it was before we joined, except a lot more expensive. And we're still paying into it with VAT. Beware goop. Paltrow's products, a risk to health, warns NHS chief. 11 p.m. tonight, UK leaves the European Union after 47 years of membership. Questions over trade and future relations with Europe and America are unresolved. Boris Johnson urges national renewal as Brussels mourns loss of pragmatic friend. Bullshit, you mean slave. Bank of England cuts growth forecast but still no interest rate rise. Knives out for the BBC. Auntie's political enemies smell blood. Yes, they should be ended. And the money that's been falsely stolen from everyone should be returned. Coronavirus declared global health emergency. British expats finally flown back. Yeah, well, let's not forget that, there are multiple cures for this virus. Dettol sorts it out for a start. Tory backbenchers set to rebel. Let's not forget, colloidal silver sorts it out. There's loads of natural antiviral products. Various oils I mentioned yesterday, they sort it out as well. The Times. PM wants Canada-style trade deal with Brussels. Johnson hailed British new act as it leaves EU and calls for tariff-free pact. World Health Chiefs declare virus is global emergency. So it's utter bullshit. It's all been predicted, like we saw earlier, right at the beginning. They knew, they were telling us what they were going to do, because that's what happens when you see this stuff in films and series and that. That's them officially telling you this is what we've got planned. And if you don't say no, they go and do it. And they think they're clean and their conscience is clean because they have told you, except they don't tell you because it's in a series. So it's all bullshit. But smart roads on hold. Support for Stewart. Rebellion over HS2. More hits the trail. Tea profits dry up. Watson ruled out. Metro. NHS chief slams Gwyneth health fads. Thank you and goodbye. PM heralds new dawn as Britain leaves at 11 PM tonight. Bullshit. Telling you, I've been saying it all along. Mirror. Now it's time to bring country back together. Killer flu. 150 Brits in quarantine. They are airlifted from China to RAF base and now face 2 weeks in isolation. Utter waste of paper. Souvenir edition. Tonight is a truly historic moment for the great nation. That's right, it's the end of a dry January. Save our Stuart, Public One News legend, back on TV. No thanks. Aussie, I don't have long to live. Oh, piss off. FT. Britain bows out of EU with a mixture of optimism and regret. No regret here. Johnson hails dawn of new era, low-key celebrations, focus switches to trade talks. Big Tobacco's vaping hopes dampened as health fears inflict 4 billion joule hit on Altria. Le Pen eyes chance to unseat Macron in France. And finally, old people at weddings always poke me and say, "You're next." So I started doing the same thing to them at funerals. If women ruled the world, there would be no wars. Just a bunch of jealous countries not talking to each other. I got yelled at for farting in the Apple store. It's not my fault they don't have windows. If a guy remembers your eye colour after the first date, then you probably have small titties.